Welcome to the How to Write a Book podcast, the show that helps you plan, write, and publish your book, even if you're a beginner or just feel like one. Now, for your host, she's written over a dozen books and helps others bring their books to life. Here she is, Maciel.
Okay. Hey, welcome to the show, Shaunta Grimes. Yay! Oh my gosh.
I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. We're super excited and happy to have you. Thank you for taking this time to be with us. How are you doing today?
I'm super good. Thank you. I'm going today to go look at puppies. So, it's a good day.
Oh my gosh. Can I ask, what are you looking for specifically?
Oh, I just like a big, it's not puppies. I just said puppies, but probably a dog, like an adult dog, but I like a real chill, laid back dog that just likes to get some affection and be with me while I'm writing. So my writing partner, that's what I'm looking for, a writing partner in dog form.
Oh, that is so cute. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's really good for you for adopting a dog that's already a little bit older. I think that's super fascinating. Yeah.
I don't have time for a puppy.
Yeah.
I'm an old lady now. I'm done with babies. I need a dog that knows, but just like a chill dog,
Yeah.
Like one of those chill ones that just wants to hang out by my, just lay by me while I'm working.
Yeah. They want to sleep as much as you want to sleep.
Yeah. Or sleep while I'm working.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks, Shaunta, for joining us. Just a little bit about you, and then we can go ahead and dive into what you want to share with us. Shaunta Grimes has worked as a substitute teacher, a newspaper reporter, a drug court counselor, and a vintage clothing seller. Before writing for children, she published 2 science fiction novels, Viral Nation and Rebel Nation. And she currently lives in Pennsylvania and has published a couple more middle grade novels since actually having this bio here. Shaunta, you want to go ahead and tell us about what you've updated since this bio was written?
Yeah. So I have 2 middle grade novels. One is called The Astonishing Maybe, and one is called Center of Gravity. And they were both published by Macmillan. And my science fiction books are young adult, and those 2 are middle grade. So yeah, I have some people had pandemic babies, and I had a pandemic book. My last book came out just as schools were closing in 2020. So that was a lot of fun. But I've been focusing a lot in the last year on learning how to write and self-publish my own nonfiction for writers. So I started a little press, Ninja Writers Press, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. I have a goal this year of writing a short nonfiction book every month.
Oh,
so just today I finished the first draft of my March book. So
I'm
very excited.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So I'm keeping up with it, which is good. And we were talking before we started recording about systems, because I am super right brained. I think most people who know me would think, oh, I'm super organized. I have my whole editorial calendar for 2022, day by day, already planned out for the whole year. But I'm not super organized. I just have systems. If I don't have systems, I literally would not do anything. I would be like a dog, not a chill dog, chasing squirrels everywhere. Starting stuff and never finishing it. And I get very excited about ideas. So I need a way of capturing those and actually doing the work. So Ninja Writers started in 2015, and basically as a way for me to share those systems that I've designed and help people go from wanting to be a writer to actually doing the work of being a writer. And that's a big leap sometimes.
I love that. And yes, let's dive into Ninja Writers. This is your community that you created, that you founded. Please tell us more about this. This sounds amazing.
Ninja Writers is an online school and writing community. And I don't know, I had joined, you probably have too, joined all kinds of programs online. And what I found was I'd get real excited. And when they were launching it, they would get me real excited, but then I join and then nothing, right? It would just drop me into a big, bunch of recorded classes, or a Facebook group where I didn't know anybody and nobody really tried to connect me. And I wanted something different for myself and I couldn't find it. So I created it And it's like a family, like truly. We have sometimes we just have social calls where, like, especially on the holidays, we do have like a family Ninja Rider family call, but it's so fun because I know everybody's stories. I know what they're working on. I can help them in a real personal way on what they're working on. And they help me too, right? Like, I'm a working writer. I'm a novelist. I'm just learning how to do social, I was about to say social media, but what I really meant was indie publishing, self-publishing. I had never done it. I'm a traditionally published novelist. I'm going to publish fiction this year for the first time, indie, and I'm terrified. But Ninja Riders is like my community, right? And they're there to help me too. So it's very supportive, active. We have probably 1,000 people that are pretty active in it. And there's 7 people on my team. So we all teach. We have live classes every single day, live workshops, places where you can read your work and get feedback, write-ins where you every morning we're on YouTube doing a live write-in. And then we also have like 2-hour write-ins on Zoom that are every single day of the week. So it's a very hands-on program.
Wow. I love that. Oh, especially because, you're so right. Like sometimes we, sign up for like these memberships and they kind of just drop you into the middle of nothing. And then you're like, okay, where do I go from here? But you still don't have like somebody to at least not hold your hand, but at least kind of guide you through or something like that.
Yeah. We have a membership group called we have 3, but the first one most people join is the Ninja Riders Club. And it's, I have never raised the price on it. It started in 2015 and it's just been the same price. And so it's $25 a month, like super low stakes, I guess, that way. Because I want anyone who wants to join to be able to figure out how to join. And I always tell people, like, if you join, we can help you learn how to make a little bit of money with your writing so that you can afford to pay for it, even if it's like, that does seem like too much for you to be able to afford. So I'm pretty proud of that we work on making sure it's something that's available to everybody who wants it. And the club is where we have all of those live classes and workshops and things like that. So I just totally lost my train of thought. You asked. Oh yeah. And what we're doing for the first time since 2015 is closing the club. So usually it's been open, like where you can join, come and leave whenever you wanted, like anytime. And we're on Monday. So Monday, which is the 14th, we are closing the doors on the club for all the way till July so that we can focus on the new people that are coming in, and there'll be like a cohort, and they're going to be something we haven't been able to do in the past because there was too many people coming and going all the time, is like a Ninja Riders team member will reach out to them personally and welcome them and offer them help in figuring out which classes are best for them. And we do a buddy program so they get matched up with another writer. Wow. And I'm very excited. It's a little scary to change what you've been doing, but I'm really excited for it. Like, this new group of people coming in are going to have a really great experience.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. Well, especially because it sounds like you're actually giving a lot more like that one-on-one attention, which is, it's so unique right now in this age where everything is done virtually, and it's just like, here, go ahead, pass through. Yeah. But you guys are having like that tailored experience.
Yeah. We have a big library of recorded classes now because we record everything that we teach, but we offer live classes every day.
Oh, that's amazing. That's literally, on all the other memberships that I've also been on, like every single day is pretty rare. That's pretty rare. So that's amazing. Oh my gosh. And I read on the bio, so I read your book, How to Write an Outline in 3 hours. And that was awesome. And you mentioned in there that you love to help writers, find their stories. When did you find that passion?
I've always known that I wanted to be a writer, like my whole life. When I was in the 6th grade, a writer named Tommy DePaulo, a children's book writer, came to my elementary school. That was a long time ago, 40 years ago. And it was the first time I made a connection in my mind that writing was a job. Like, he just looked like a grandpa, like my grandpa or whatever. Although I actually got to go to a conference 3 or 4 years ago, and he was there. So even though he felt like a grandpa to me when I was 10, he was like in his 90s a couple of years ago. So it would have been in his like late 50s. Probably. I was 10. And I was like, oh my God, like all of these books that I love so much, someone just writes them and that's their job. And that is what I wanted my job to be. And that was it. I never wanted anything else since then, except to be a teacher. I love teaching, and teaching was my plan B. And so I never let myself do it. And then in 2015, I just had like a real big shift in my thinking. And I thought, teaching can be part of my writing career if I let it. And I did. And it literally exploded overnight. Like I was a teacher's assistant because I wouldn't let myself be a classroom teacher because I felt like giving up on writing. And I just didn't like my job very much. I loved the work. I loved teaching and I loved the kids, but I was working under a burned out teacher and it was just not good. And I thought, well, I had a blog and it was not anything to do with writing. It was like a recipe, like mom blog. And I thought, well, I'm going to write another book because that'll get me, an advance if it sells, and then I can quit my job, which was all I wanted. And, I have a very specific method for writing a book. And like I said, systems, right? So that I actually write the book and finish writing it. And, so I thought, well, I'm just going to share week by week what I'm doing and how I'm writing this book. And I started doing that. And all of a sudden people were coming out of the woodwork. I did it on my blog that had nothing to do with writing, but my email list went from like maybe 100 people to 1,000 people in a month. And, I was like, oh my God, like there's something here. And I was brave. It was, sometimes something just happens and it's right. And you just like go with it. And that's what I did. And I realized when I started teaching, the class, I developed a year-long class. It's like the opposite of NaNoWriMo. Mm-hmm. Instead of write a book in a month, it's write a book in a year. Mm-hmm. It's called a novel idea. It's the core of the Ninja Writers Club. That's how you get the classes, through the club. And, I just realized as I was helping all of these people, and I just have a knack for understanding their stories and remembering them, right? Like someone can come back to us after a year or two and I remember what they were working on. Like my brain just connects them to their stories. And so, but I really realized how much I love teaching in 2015 when I started doing Ninja Writers for real. And I've never at the time, it was just something that would get me until I was making enough money from writing and then I could quit or whatever. And I don't think that I can't imagine giving up teaching now. I love it. I love the connection to the other writers, and I love knowing their stories and being able to help them, bring them out. Like, I really truly believe that this is my motto. I really believe that a good story can change the world, right? And almost nothing else really has ever. And so it feels very important and amazing to be able to help people learn how to tell their stories well so that they can go out and change the world with them.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it's so true though. I absolutely believe that, it's stories that can change the world. And that's how we resonate with people. It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. And before we kind of dive into your processes, I would love to just talk about how were you struggling before you created, Ninja Writers? You started writing more prolifically, your systems. What were you dealing with internally?
Well, I wrote my very first novel during NaNoWriMo in 2004. I was very pregnant. My daughter, Ruby, was born on December 8th. So a week later, I had a baby. And it shifted something in my brain. I had always been a writer. Like I said, I started wanting to be a writer when I was 10. And I was a journalist, and I had businesses where I've always been kind of entrepreneurial, I guess. But I have a son who has autism. And so I struggled when he was little to be able to have a regular job because he needed so much care. And so I had a business where I prepared legal documents for people. And I had a business where I always freelanced, and all different kinds of things. And I really wanted to write a novel, but I would get a start on it, or I'd have an idea and I would either doubt myself, like, oh, I'm not going to be able to write like this, too many words. I'm never going to be able to do this. And it takes months, right, to write a novel, or at least weeks. Even a month is a long time.
Yeah.
And I was very, very pregnant and I was miserable. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the longest December of all. Like, it's a 3-year in November, because it was just felt like December was never going to get there. And I was never going to have this baby. And I just decided to do NaNoWriMo and to help me get through November, because I was so miserably pregnant. She was a 10-pound baby.
Oh, wow.
And so, what I realized is that I could do it, and everything else, like once I knew I could write something that long, everything else was mechanics, and I could learn how to write better, but I needed to have a draft to work on. And so that was well before I started Ninja Writers. It was figuring out ways that I could keep with the same project long enough to finish it. Because if you think of all the things that novelists have in common, like even the most popular, like best-selling novelists of all times, they have to finish a draft. It doesn't even have to be good, right? They're like, we could probably all name books that aren't particularly well written, but they're really well received, or they've made a lot of money or whatever, but it's finished. Like, it has to be finished. And so the first systems that I came up with was a way of making myself stick with the same project all the way through until I was done with the first draft. So I've noticed that people are either really love writing drafts or they really love editing. I'm an editor. I love writing. I love editing. I love having written a draft so that I can work on it. Mm-hmm. But getting that first draft out is really hard for me.
Me too.
And,
yeah.
And so I have this theory about that one of my I think this was probably one of my first systems, was this idea that there's different kinds of writers, archetypes, 5 of them. I'm a teacher writer, so I'm very idea focused. I'm very reader focused. I have to have readers or there's no purpose for me to write. There's almost nothing I write that I would just like write in my diary and be happy with. I always write with my readers in mind. And then there's spillers who are confessional writers, and their writing's very cathartic. And there's artists who are very muse focused. So they're perfectionists, and hesitators who have a foot on the brake and the gas at the same time. And they're learners, right? Like, they never feel perfectly ready to get started. And when they do, though, they go into one of the other archetypes. And skippers are people who are happiest with they can write anything and they're happiest with a contract or knowing that they're going to be paid. So 5 archetypes. And I realized, well, if I'm a teacher writer, then I can lean into that. And that will help me to finish my books, right? Because I can think about my reader and what does my reader need? And what do I want my reader to know? And that helps me with my plotting, and it helps me with, like, I can't get to my reader if I haven't finished this draft. So having that front of mind helps me, is a system that I use to help me get my writing done. And it's a little different than someone like, say, my daughter, Adrienne, is a writer and she's an artist. And so when she starts thinking about readers, she gets all like closed up. She closes down, right? So she has to think about the art of it and the craft of it, rather than like hurrying up and getting this done, not hurrying up, but like actually doing the work, getting it out. She doesn't struggle with finishing the way I do. Artists generally don't. They might take them forever, but they finish because they are perfectionists, and it's not perfect if it's not done. I'm definitely not a perfectionist.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And so I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
that's brilliant. I'm curious, how did you come up with the 5 archetypes?
I just came to me. I really like, do you ever do like personality tests or, so I really like them a lot. I'm an Enneagram 6, and I feel comforted by knowing where I fall in, like, how understanding myself. And so I especially since Ninja Writers, like, I knew my own archetype. I guess I didn't use those words for it, but I knew myself. I was just working by myself for decades before I had Ninja Writers. And when I started working with Ninja Writers, suddenly I had thousands of writers that I was talking to. And I realized I just have this kind of knack for understanding what it is they're doing and why they're not doing what they want to do. And it just came out of there. Like, I would not be surprised to learn that I don't know what you write or anything, but anyone who has a podcast who wants to reach out to readers that much, it is either most of the time is either going to be a teacher or a spiller or some combination of that. I'm a teacher. And then my secondary one is I got a little spiller. Spillers are storytellers, and teachers, if they're not careful, they forget to tell the story and their writing turns out dry and like kind of academic. And spillers sometimes forget to invite their readers in because it's all, they're very inward focused, right? So they just want to tell they want an audience, but I kind of equate it to teachers are like, they're like folk singers and they're down there with the people, and spillers are like rock stars and they want the audience and they want the energy of the audience, but they want to be on the stage and the audience is like out there somewhere, but they don't necessarily want to look at, like, I want to know every one of my writers. My readers, I want to know who they are and what they're working on. And a spiller would not necessarily have that desire. Like they would want, it's much more voyeuristic. It's like kind of reading a spiller writer's work is a lot like looking through their medicine cabinet or reading their diary or something, like it's a little bit, and they're willing to go deeper and be more vulnerable than most everyone else. So my guess would be anyone who has a podcast who wants who is reaching out to an audience that way, it's probably a teacher or possibly a spiller. So I'd be, I don't know. I don't know what you write. So, I would probably type you in if we talked about your writing a little
That is so cool. Yeah. My listeners know that I primarily focus on romance and fantasy,
Oh yeah.
So you're saying the voyeurism. I'm like, oh, hey.
Yeah. I write when I get ready to indie publish, it's definitely going to be romance. And I started out wanting to be a romance writer. But children's writers are almost always teachers. Writers for children are just almost always teacher writers. When I say teachers, I don't mean like a classroom teacher. It's just a word I use to talk about someone who's really has ideas and wants to share the ideas. And that's the number one thing. Romance writers are often spillers. So, and I've got a spiller, like a pretty heavy spiller edge. I call it an edge I love romance. It's my first love.
Me too. I mean, it's just like, sometimes I tried to like explore other genres. Like, let me try this. I just go right back into romance.
Yeah. In fact, I always need a romance in every story. Like that's what I gravitate to. Any kind of book I read it, if it has a romance in it, I like it better.
I'm totally biased in that sense too. Like if I'm watching something or reading something and I'm like, oh, there's no romance in here. Let me move on to the next thing. Like it's okay. Yeah. That is so cool about the archetypes. And so when people join Ninja Writers, is there like a quiz that they can like find this out?
There is a quiz and I will give you the link to that. And also if they join the Ninja Writers Club, which remember it's closing on Monday. But if you join with a quarterly or annual, I'm actually having a kind of, I don't know if it's a workshop or like a party, an archetype party on March 5th. At 11 a.m. Eastern. And we'll take the quiz together. And then I'll just talk to everybody and help them understand their type. Or if they're not sure, like try to learn more about what they're doing so I can type them. So we're having an archetype party it's like a bonus for joining the club with the annual or quarterly option.
That is really cool. And I think you mentioned, was there like a webinar happening Saturday, the 12th?
Yeah, this Saturday on the 12th at 6 p.m. Eastern. Nope, 8 p.m. Eastern. Mm-hmm. At 8 p.m. Eastern, this coming Saturday, we're having a webinar, and it's going to be all about planning your writing, like the next quarter of your writing. So what are you going to work on? What just really deep planning. Planning is my jam. I'm a planner.
I love that.
Yeah. And so we're going to create editorial planners for the next quarter on that day. And that's free to the public. So you don't have to join anything. Just come. It's a Zoom link.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. I'll make sure that, we'll reiterate that in the notes as well, so they can jump in. And like, speaking of like, you're talking about like all the planning that you do. I mean, how did you come up with the plans that you have, the systems that you have? So like you teach them to other people, but like at what point were you like, this has grown into an actual, like a solid system? How did that arrive to you?
Oh, definitely when, I started the first thing for a couple years, all we had was my class, A Novel Idea, which is writing a novel in a year. It's a 3, I went to a workshop taught by a writer named Alexandra Sokoloff, and she talked about the 3-act 8-sequence story structure, which, it's a pretty common, screenwriting structure, and it just really resonated with me. And she had like a plot board with all these sticky notes, and I was like, I can do that. And I emailed her and I was like, I want to teach this, is that okay? And she's like, sure. And so I just like started, so that there's actually anyone can join the plotting workshop for free. It's a recorded class, and I will give you the link to that to share with people as well. It's free, like totally free. And it's like, when I started seeing people actually be able to finish writing their novels or make progress more than that they had ever done before, is when I knew like I was onto something. I had something here that if I could teach people how to do it, they would move from, everybody wants to write a novel. Like if you tell anybody that you're a writer, they're like, oh, I did that in high school or college, or I used to want to write a novel, or yeah, I have an idea. But nobody does it, hardly. And very few people actually, because it's a lot of work that has to happen before you have any idea that it's ever going to work out. You have to do the work without ever knowing that anyone will ever read it. And if you're a teacher writer like me, that's especially hard, right? Because I don't have a reader. I don't even have a reason for writing. Even having one reader versus no reader. So like an email list of 10 people is motivates me the more than anything else, because I know, okay, these 10 people want to read what I'm writing, so I better finish writing it. And when I realized that I was actually helping people write their books, like when we started getting people actually doing the work of writing their books or writing, we don't only do fiction anymore. After a couple of years, we added in, a lot about blogging. I'm one of Medium's top, like, I'm a blogger. I write on Medium mostly. And I've done very well there. And so I started teaching. When I learn how to do something, my first instinct is, I can teach someone how to do this. And so we added in, especially when the pandemic started, and I realized that people were going to need to think about work in a different way. I was like, okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit. And we added in a lot in 2020 and 2021 about being working writers and learning how to create income streams with their writing and that kind of thing. But for the first time, I knew that my systems were worth more than just like how they helped me, was when I saw that first group of people who went through A Novel Idea. So many of them actually wrote their books, and that was huge for me.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Especially because you're changing the world, like,
yes.
Yeah, they're writing their books, and then they themselves will share their stories, and that affects other people. And it's like this beautiful chain of events that's like spreading inspiration. Oh my gosh. So with all the processes that you have in place now, which I'm like, I love it. Like, so before I would say that I was like more of a pantser, right? So just going by it. Okay. How did you make that switch? Right. Like, so like, I'm like, I feel like I should go into plot. Like, what did you do to make that switch?
So in 2013, I published my book. So I sold 2 books in 2012, Viral Nation and Rebel Nation. It was my first books that were sold. They sold to an imprint of Penguin, and I was very, very excited. And the first one came out. and 2013. And a couple weeks later, I got an email from my editor who said she wanted to know what the second, she needed a synopsis for the second book. And I was like, are you like, what? It took me 2 years to write the first one. Like, how am I supposed to know? And I realized that I had to learn how to plot a book because, I was not going to be able to pants this book. I needed to tell my editor what it was going to be about. And now, like in the next couple of weeks. And so, I went back to, I had just, seen Alexandra Sokoloff do that, whatever it was at a conference. It was like a workshop. And, so I used her system. I was just like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I wrote that book. I did it and it worked really well because I wrote that book in 6 months instead of 2 years. And now I've done it so many times that, if I have a book really well plotted, I can write it in 6 weeks. And so that was how I became, once I actually wrote a book with a plot, I never looked back, because it's so much easier. It's so much easier to write it when I know where I'm going. And a lot of times I hear people say, well, if I plot it, it's going to be boring or it's going to ruin it. I'll have already written it. But I think that if they give it a try, they'll see. I plot the whole book pretty intensely, but I just write what I want to write. So often, in fact, every single time, I don't think I've ever written a book where it came out the way the plot is, like what I think how it's going to turn out. It's a very flexible plot. Sometimes you don't know what's going to happen until you get there. It's always a surprise. So I'm never bored by my stories, but having a plot gives me a way in. And usually I can plot. This is my experience with myself and also all of the writers I've worked with, or many, many of them. It's really easy to pants the first act of a story because you can hold it all in your head. And it's pretty easy to pants the third act because you know where you want to go. And once you get, it's the middle, it's long. The middle is half of the whole book. It's 3 acts, but the second half is actually 2 parts and it's half of the book. And it's impossible, at least for me and most people I know, to hold all of that in your head. And so you get off track and you don't know where you're going. And then you have to get from the first act to the third act somehow. And it gets boring and I don't know, but that's the part that I really need to plot is that middle part. Because I can write a first act. And if someone would ever wanted to pay me for just writing first acts forever and never finish second act, but nobody wants to do that. Like they want the whole book. So I have to write this, figure out a way to write the second act, even though it's really hard. And plotting helps with that the most. Because in general, the first act of my stories generally turns out about how I think it will, because I can do that most people can do that without a plot, because it's you can hold all of that in your head, right? It's what you think your book is about is the first act. And then how you want it to end up is the third act. And that's pretty easy. You've written everything and there's no more world building or anything. It's just takes off. I think of it like a horse going back to its barn. It just takes on a life of its own. And it's pretty in comparison to the second act, the third act is pretty easy to write for most people, but getting there, the second act, that's hard.
Yeah.
And so once I wrote a book with a plot, that was it. I never have looked back because I would never try to do it again without a plot. I finish every book I start to write now, and that did not happen before. I would get these kind of half starts and false starts because I was trying to do something without knowing where I was going. I think of it as a roadmap. If I know we've focused pretty heavily in Ninja Writers on 5 plot points that are I think of them if it's a roadmap, these are your where you're going to stop to spend the night, right? They're it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there. So it keeps you from either leaving your driveway and then just driving around your block forever, or leaving your driveway and meaning to go from I don't know, you're in the Pacific. Are you in California?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you wanted to come visit me, you'd have to figure out a way to make sure you continuously come east, right? Otherwise, you could go around the world north to south forever and never get any closer to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So the roadmaps the plot points would be Yeah. Like you need to get to Nevada and you need to get to Utah and you need to get to Nebraska and you need to you have to keep going that way. It doesn't matter if you take a detour or go anywhere, any direction to get there, but as long as you get there. And so those are the plot points are pretty important. And
you touch on those on the book that I read, which is How to Outline a Book in 3 Hours. Okay, yeah. So those, when you were mentioning those, I'm like, oh yeah, you've talked about those, and that's really cool. I love how you kind of you literally map it out. And at the end of that, reading that book, I was like, I can absolutely see how you would have something way more cohesive that put together. Like makes you feel confident and comfortable. And
we use sticky notes. So if you get to Utah and you're like, I really want to go through Tennessee on my way to Pennsylvania, like you can change a plot point. They're Post-it notes. They're not like chiseled in stone. They're not even written in, they're plot, rip it off and put a new one there. Because sometimes you don't know something about your story until you start to write it. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's how that's going to happen. Yeah. But at least you're headed in the right direction so that you can find, you can see those ideas when they come up.
Yeah.
You're much more likely to have them if you're headed in the right direction.
That's awesome. I think that's going to give a lot of confidence to those who consider themselves pantsers, and they're like, oh, I want to make the switch, or I need to have more confidence. And maybe they'll use that to make that jump forward. Yeah.
We have some pretty hardcore pantsers in Ninja Riders. And one of them actually is part of our team, Junita. And she has recently told me that even though she's still a pantser and she just does not, she's an artist as well. So she's stubborn and perfectionist and does not she's very muse focused, right? And her muse doesn't want her to plot. She's not going to do it no matter how many times I tell her she should. But she does do the 5 key plot points. And she said that that has helped her a lot, even if it's just mild plotting, so that she has some idea of where she's going. It helps a lot. So not everybody comes as far into the plotting world as I do, but it does help. Even just understanding story structure and how stories are told helps a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, that's amazing. Okay. So, as we're getting close to our time here, I would love to ask you, what resources that you have, Ninja Riders has, further that you guys want to share with us, especially because, it is February and people are starting to kind of come out of their goal making and starting to face the year, Yeah.
So we have, right now, the Ninja Riders Club is open until Monday, and then it closes till July, and it's only $5 to join for the first month. So we'd love to have any of your listeners join us. I think, it's a little bit of a risk to decide to join something, but it's not much of one. It's $5, and we would just love to meet you guys. We have a couple of resources that I will make sure that you guys have access to if you're interested. One is a tool that we call Fred, which is the folder for reaching the end of your draft. And it's just an accountability calendar. So to track your streaks of writing, we're big on daily writing habit or a daily writing practice. So 10 minutes a day and you win. It's okay if you write more. I write a couple hours a day generally, but you get a sticker on your calendar or an X or whatever. If you're not a sticker, I'm totally a sticker person.
Me too.
Everybody is. And we actually just came out with a print one. You can order on Amazon, a print Fred. So it's like a calendar and it has all your planning and there's a plot board in there and everything, plus 3 calendars. But we have a free one you can just print off as well. And we have the plotting workshop and also a smaller class. The plotting workshop is 8-week class. It's a pretty intensive and it's free though. And they can join that. And then we also have how to test and develop a story idea, which is just about the 5 key plot points. And my February book just came out, so it's still only $1.99 through Monday. And it is a book about creating your own style guide, like a personal writer style guide just for you of your own problems to help you with editing.
Wow.
I don't know. I didn't know this, and I don't know if it's common knowledge, but when you work with a professional copy editor, they create a style guide for you of all of your problems. That was the most amazing thing because it's just your problems. Yeah. And you just go down the list when you're self-editing and okay, these are the things I need to look for. These are the words I overuse. This is the story, sentence structure that I lean on too heavily. I use too many dialogue tags or whatever it is. The copy editor pulls all of that out when there and makes a list for you as a personal style guide. And so, my new book, which is just called Create Your Own Writer Style Guide, has what I think are the most important editing techniques that if you do these things is going to elevate your writing immediately. But then also to as you're doing that work, pulling out the ones that are your biggest problem areas to make your own style guide.
Wow. That sounds super helpful. I
think so. I think it will be. So I'll make sure you have a link to that. It's the ebook, similar to the one that you already read, but I think that one's going to be really helpful for people.
Yeah, that sounds, I'm already okay, where can I'm going to get this? Let me get this now. That's amazing. Okay. Yeah. Very
and
cool.
That one's $1.99 through Monday. And then it'll go up to its regular price is $4.99. So it's not expensive anyway, but, so those are resources I'd really love for anyone to join us. So for the Ninja Writers.
That sounds amazing. It really does.
It is. I always say it's the best writing community on the planet. And I truly believe that. And there's no cool way to say that when it's my thing and it sounds like marketing copy, but it totally is the most amazing writing community. I've never experienced anything like it. I'm part of the community. I'm not, people have access to me every single day. So I don't know of any other way where, if you are wanting to be a writer, where you can come and talk to someone who's done it and is, part of the community with you.
That is so cool. That's so cool. I'm excited to check it out too. Cause I'm okay.
Yeah.
I've seen it before. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was so cool. Oh, okay. Shaunta, this was amazing, and
I had so much.
Oh, I'm so glad. And we would love to have you back on before July when you guys open your doors again.
Definitely. I would love that.
Yeah, especially because Camp NaNoWriMo was going on during that time. Everybody's kind of coming back out of there.
Well, we have a lot. The reason we're opening again in July is we have a program we call BYOB, which is Blog Your Own Book. And it's July, August, September, and October, leading up to NaNoWriMo. And it's writing 30 blog posts all on the same topic that you can turn into a short nonfiction book. So in July we plan, and then we write the blog posts, and then we plan them all 30 blog posts, 31 blog posts out. Then we write them all. Then we put them all into a book. Then we edit, and it's ready to publish. So that starts in July as well. So we could talk about that. That would be fun.
That's super cool. Okay. Yeah. Listen, we're going to have that on our next show
I'm
together.
putting it in my calendar now.
Perfect. Okay. So, can you go ahead and let readers know and listeners know where they can find you and Ninja Writers?
Yeah. So Ninja Writers is easy to find, ninjawriters.org. We also have a really active, amazing Facebook group. So Ninja Writers on Facebook. And they can reach out to me at Shaunta at ninjawriters.org if they have questions about the club. And I would just, if they sign up for any of the things that will be in your show notes, they'll get on my email where I communicate with Ninja Writers a lot through email. So they would be on my email list to learn about all of our stuff. We have new stuff happening every day.
Very cool.
Oh, and they can join youtube.com/Ninja Writers. We do a live writing sprint every single day of the week. During the week, it starts at 9 a.m. Eastern officially, and at Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. And our official thing is a 10-minute writing sprint, but we write for a whole hour ahead during the week to get more sprints. And we started doing that for NaNoWriMo and just never stopped. It's February. We're still doing it every day. And then I often log in early. Because I just do better writing if I'm, I know for sure that people are it's accountability for me. So I often log in a half hour to an hour early and I'm there writing, and people just come in. It's no talking or anything, just sprints or writing, everyone writing on their own thing, timer going from 9 to 10.
And that's sometimes what we need, just to be I'm going to sit down, put my butt in the chair.
Just accountability. Yeah. But it's a great community too in the chat. It's very active. So that they can join that any day. And if they join my email list, they'll get a reminder of it every morning.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, oh my gosh, I love that. I'm definitely signing up. So everybody listening, that would be awesome. And we'll put the links in the show notes for Ninja Writers, for the resources that you have for yourself, your awesome book, so that I'm starting to read now. So I'm really excited to hear what else, especially that the style guide one. It's going to be super cool.
Yes.
Okay, Shaunta.
Yeah. Thank you. It was so nice to talk to you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to stop this recording and then I'll just chat with you at the end after this. Meanwhile, we'll say goodbye to everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey there, writer. Thank you for listening to the How to Write a Book podcast with your host, Maciel Valenzuela. If you like the show, we'd be happy if you left a review. For more information on writing and the writer's life, go to www.themaciel.com. That's www.themassiel.com. We'll see you on the other side.